And boom, we should be live in a second here. Everybody in the chat, if you can hear us and see us, please give me a thumbs up. Thanks for your patience here. And once I just verify we're live, I'll hit record and we'll fire this podcast up. Very excited to have our buddy Saul on today. Let's see. Looks like we're good here. I don't know if this is a setting that I have in my Zoom, but you're not showing up, Saul, because you're not showing your video. Weird. You should show your picture at least. I'm looking right now on our live stream and I'm not seeing you. Could you give me a check talk and see if we see you?
Yeah, let me just do that. Am I showing up? I'm showing up on my screen.
Yeah, not seeing you.
So right now it's you, and now it's me.
Okay. Oh yeah, it's just showing your name on the stream. That's so weird. That doesn't show your picture on the stream.
It is odd. You know, Zoom has been having some strange, I don't know, some strange glitches lately, because it was doing that with me not too long ago, and then it stopped doing it, but not because I did anything. This is fun. Yeah, showing live. It's showing my picture on my live thing. So are you looking over at what's happening on
yeah, I'm going to share it to Telegram and we'll just work with it. Also, if you have any screen shares I can do, I'll do that during the show, because that always is fun to look at. We could look at your site and look at some other stuff. So
sure. Yeah, let me know.
No worries. Okay, let me just share that we're live and then I'll hit record and we'll fire this up. And yeah, excited. You know, we're going to touch on all of our favorite topics today, it sounds like. So
right on, yeah.
I've been really enjoying your continual mission to help support the knowledge around the virus lie. That's been really great, Sol. You've really championed that the last couple of years.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, that's one of my little babies I've been carrying along.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and hit record right now, and we'll get this going. And boom, we're back for another episode of AlphaCast. I'm Mike Winter, and I'm here as always with the grand beloved Dr. Bear Paul Lando, the man on the other side of the river there on the South Fork in the beautiful Big Flat, crushing it as always on the farm, doing what he can do best. Bear Lando, how are you today?
I'm doing good, and thank you as usual for that opening superlative. How's things going over in the in Lower Scabo there on your side of the river?
Couldn't be better. We've been in the river every day. Just so blessed with how healthy it is. The water is just amazing. I did take a nasty spill a couple days ago, and my entire right leg is just full of abrasions, and my right hip is completely covered with contusions. I fell about 10 feet down a 2,000-foot cliff, trying to do a pretty gnarly gifting of organite, and was in my earth runners like an idiot. And lucky I didn't break anything. The angels were definitely supporting me there. I literally fell head over heels down the side of a mountain and walked away pretty much unscathed, except for some nasty cuts. So yeah, that's been my week.
We're glad it wasn't serious, but you realized they were probably watching you from the Death Star and hit you with a disequilibrium ray that made you fall down the cliff there. They don't want anybody messing with their screwing up the ozone there.
Well, the good thing is the organite was installed, and I don't know if you guys got a little bit on Sunday, but we got a little bit of rain literally in the beginning of August on Sunday. Raindrops started falling on our head.
Yeah,
it was pretty wild. So that was cool.
I was out setting irrigation, and I started getting a couple drops on my face, and I was like, what's going on? Do I have a leak here that's spraying up at me? I looked up, it was actually sprinkling.
Yeah, God was taking a tinkle, I guess, as I'd say as a kid. But it was really cool to see. And we had some family visiting, and they went and floated the river with getting sprinkled on. It was a trip. Felt like I was in Hawaii. So, and I'm wearing one of my new Hawaiian shirts I got for you as an homage to you, Bearlando. So, it's kind of
Nice.
Hawaiian. It's
Classy.
almost more like Fijian, really. But stoked to have Saul
Means you're
Luckman
getting to
on.
be an old man. Only geezers wear Hawaiian shirts anymore. You know, when I was in my 20s, 30s, that was like the rage. We were back and forth with Hawaii before we moved there full time, and you know, even on North Shore Oahu, there, you know, all the young surfers were wearing aloha shirts, but became kind of out of vogue here with the new radical wave of what do we call the agro surfers?
Oh yeah. No, they're back. The Hawaiian shirts are back, definitely with the kiddos.
Nice.
So you can start wearing yours again. And we do have a surfer with us today. We were just talking a little surf talk before we hit record. Saul over on the East Coast, and excited to go deep in with him today. Saul Luckman is this is the second time on the show with us. He's award-winning novelist, and he's returning to guide us on a magical mystery tour. Saul Luckman is a pioneering visual artist, award-winning novelist, and humorist, and best-selling author of nonfiction books on health, spirituality, and consciousness. As an accomplished ink and acrylic painter, Saul offers a glimpse of this universe of intelligent energy in his artwork as objects condition space with their essence and vice versa. And the outside conflates with the inside because all is one. Saul's international bestsellers spanned fiction with Snooze and Callie the Destroyer, nonfiction, Conscious Healing, Potentiate Your DNA, and humor satire, The Angel's Dictionary, Musings from a Small Island. In his bold, colorful compositions, 3 of which have been featured on the covers of Itzhak Beery's The Gift of Shamanism, Shamanic Transformation, and Shamanic Healing, Saul is committed to exploring and depicting energy. This podcast will leave no stone unturned as Saul's intrepid explorations into fake science, the present global dystopia, and the very nature of consciousness are congruent with the philosophical leanings of us here on AlphaCast. Why are some vulnerable to the mind parasites? While many of us laugh them off, are accepted historical accounts the biggest fables of all, and what constitutes the true fabric of our realm? Well, we're going to dive into all these topics, much more today. Dr. Bearlando, take it away.
Hey, gentlemen. Actually, Saul Luckman is a pseudonym for Kelly Slater, who we actually have on here today. So hi, Saul. Anyway, it is good to be in the company of fellow surfers here. And we could talk surfing the whole time. But Saul, hey, great for you to join us. Always good to chat with you. We've had a lot of great chats over the phone. We've had great chats. You know, both Mike and I have been on your platform. You've been with us. So good to have you back. Thanks for making time with us. Shoot, we have a lot of ground to cover. You know, we share so many similar interests. Simulation, shamanism, healing, DNA, predispositions based on what's going on in our consciousness. So why don't we start off by you telling us what's new? You know, I get your regular newsletter with podcast, that you put out there, and I really enjoy them. I'd encourage our audience to really check them out. And Mike will put all the links for those in the show notes here. But Saul, good to see you. And thanks for being with us. So tell us what you're up to these days, and then we can kind of use that to segue into, whatever we want to dive into.
Well, thanks, Dr. Bear, and thanks, Mike. I'm really stoked to be here. I was mentioning before we came on that I've been riding my Pipo board a lot lately. I've come from a body surfing background, so I'm kind of learning the board world a little bit now, and increasing my skills as a waterman. So that's been a lot of fun. But I really appreciate you guys having me on.
Body surfing can be pretty gnarly. You ever watch those guys down at the Wedge in Southern California? They're doing crazy stuff.
Definitely. Like Mark Cunningham was a really big influence of mine. He cut his teeth in that world in Hawaii, and is still considered to be the greatest living body surfer. He's just really, really incredible. I mean, I'm nowhere near that level, but I've gotten pretty good. I can hang with some of the younger guys in where I surf in Florida, and I can catch some kind of crazy crazy waves. But the wedge is a different animal entirely. That'll break you in two if you're not careful.
I grew up on the wedge because that's where I'm from. And that's why I grew up as what surfers would classically call a sponger and a body surfer because of those kind of breaks. Same with Corona del Mar right there. Big, heavy, really concave breaks there that were hard to surf. And I definitely almost died at the wedge when I was 14. I was held under for a good couple minutes, it felt like, and came out on the sand and was puking and all that. So I've had my bouts with the wedge, Sir Lando, if you didn't know that. What a heavy, heavy wave that is.
Yeah, super, super heavy. So anyway, that's I have a lot of respect for people who can take that on. I'm a little bit more of a lightweight, but I mean, you know, I can get up into some pretty good stuff when, you know, when the curve is right and it's not such a downward momentum, but that really kind of throws off my game a little bit. But in terms of what I've been doing, I mean, I may have even said this before. I still spend a lot of time at attending Alpha Vedic University. You know, you guys have such a great podcast, and there's always so much just fascinating material you put out, and you always send me down a lot of rabbit holes of research and exploration. So you've definitely done it again. I would say I've spent the last several weeks neck deep in Jason Bashir's work and simulation theory, and looking at the, you know, well, a lot of stuff that I wasn't aware of, but also a lot that I was aware of, and how many connections there are to my thought process and to my nonfiction books on energy healing. And they're deeply they're absolutely full of a kind of holographic view of reality.
Yeah, Jason is pretty amazing. He's encyclopedic as far as his, you know, his research and his knowledge, and interesting guy, very interesting guy. We're going to have him back on again pretty soon too. So,
so yeah, I would love to just talk
ahead.
a little bit about the simulation concept, and
okay,
you know, kind of where I'm coming from and how I'm meeting up with that material. I know a lot of people are looking into this. You know, you've had like Santos Bonacci, is that his last name, has interviewed
yes.
Jason, and he just went on with Max Egan or Max Eigen. I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but very big figure. And so he's getting a lot of traffic. So I know that his numbers are spiking, and so there's a lot of interest in what he's putting out, and I think for good reason, because if he's right, you know, we're headed into some pretty intense and amazing events in the not so distant future.
Yeah, the Phoenix event is in the early 2040s, according to his calculations, and it's actually a conjunction with the other event I'm blanking on right now. So we're looking at
the Nemesis X object and
Nemesis X, correct. And what's interesting is this ties in with like Diehold Foundation's similar predictions, which come from a totally different angle. And Jason would say that is not congruent with where he's coming from. But I only bring that up because there are other traditions too that all seem to point at this like 2040s time period. So yeah, I think a lot of people are interested in this because it kind of is a big deal if there's any sort of truth there. We're talking about massive, massive global change.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I think the you know, what got me really interested in that leading up to it was looking more into concepts around Tartaria. And I know there's a tremendous amount of disagreement on what that even means, but just the idea of mud floods and pre-existing civilization resets and hidden history, or history that's been covered up, and all of that, you know, obviously that ties into Jason's research into simulation theory and the idea that we have these cataclysmic events that are programmed into the simulation, one of them being the Phoenix, the other being this Nemesis X object that he talks about. And so he's, you know, come up with this idea, and I know he's been on the show, but that there's a 138-year cycle, which is the Phoenix cycle. It's actually a kind of cleansing mechanism, thus the name. There's a rebirth aspect to it, and it's designed in some ways to keep, I know this is such a rabbit hole, it turns into a rabbit hole really fast, but according to him, the Phoenix Protocol is designed to keep the archons and the archontic forces, their minions, in check. So that's a very fascinating aspect of this discussion that we might have. But I thought I would just kick off, you know, and I know, Dr. Bear, you're very well versed in this material, but you know, lest people think this is completely just you know, out coming from left field. I wanted just to share that there was this 2012 study, I think it was at Bonn University in Germany, and it was looking at cosmic rays, and it was looking at a kind of energy shift that they are supposed to contain, whatever they are, and however you want to define the word cosmic. But anyway, they end up revealing this kind of underlying pattern or lattice that was hypothesized to be a kind of created artifice, a kind of simulation. And we're talking about, you know, a hologram here, and you can look back at Michael Talbot's wonderful book, the Holographic Universe, and everything that he had to say on this subject, and many other individuals who have looked at this question. There's an article I'm looking at right now from Science Daily back in 2012. It was talking about this, and the article is, "Do we live in a computer simulation run by our descendants?" No, that's not what I think Jason is saying necessarily. It would be less, not so much our descendants, and more so our true selves may be running the simulation. But in any case, it's an entire article on this idea that we're living in a simulation that's designed to help us learn how to, I don't know, improve our systems or survive or do something positive in terms of the human race.
Yeah, and you know, it's not far-fetched at all, because cultures, people, you know, for eons have understood how the simulation works. And it gets into all the things we talk about, you know, as far as how electrical forces are, you know, precipitate through the ethers to create our entire reality, our bodies, and how we're all individualizations of the grand design that has the ability to project our little simulations within simulations. But it also really explains the science. You know, people like Jason and yourself, you know, you're great at bringing forth the more the historical understanding as far as how the simulation has been manipulated, and you know, how different time clocks have been conceived in order to control people. But the main thing, you know, from my perspective, is understanding the science behind it, because then rather than just wringing our hands and saying, well, somebody's manipulating us, or has created, you know, this holographic universe, you know, that we're now captive of, we can actually do something about it. And I believe that's what the simulation is about, is us being in an incubation period where we learn how to create the simulation we want. And, you know, the science also explains very clearly how other entities who are not, you know, in the mass hypnosis and actually creating it, can manipulate us on the mental plane and capture our attention, and therefore our whole creative impulse, our creative consciousness, to create the world that they want, and seduce us into thinking that we can't do that for ourselves. So yeah, anywhere, you know, you want to take that, but there's just so much, not just evidence, but ways that we can verify that for ourselves by taking these forces that the ancients talked about, as far as how the simulation is created in the first place, and recreate them in the lab, and you know, in medicine and everything that we do. So it's not just conjecture when you take these principles and then apply them and then have your own experience. You say, wow, that's really how the universe works, and it can't be anything else but a projection, a simulation, whatever you want to call it. It's all the same thing.